Cursed City of Cintranos, the whole goal is to beat this guy, Amius. Amius, the Lunar Archon. Well, I'm going to break down how I did it. I think this is, at this point, the most free-to-play, friendly, accessible team. There's only one legendary in this. There's two legendaries in the squad. Both of them were fusion champions. Most of you will have these champions, or at least a lot of you will. I think it's going to be a pretty good guide of how to go about building it, how to go about beating at least one alternative that I found to be effective. Welcome, I'm the Deadwoodjedi. This is a Raid Shadow Legends video. We are in the Cursed City of Cintranos, and we're looking at beating the final boss, Amius, Amius, the Lunar Archon. A crazy champion with a crazy kit. So if we look at Amius, his skills are kind of insane. He's a mythical champion, essentially, as a boss. I mean, there's so many skills and abilities to go over. It's kind of insane. It's really insane. But I spent a lot of time actually trying to build a team to beat him. And through the course of it, I was finally able to understand the skills that he uses and sort of get an understanding of when he uses them and why. Because one of the interesting things with his kit is he doesn't always use them when you think he should, which is a little bit annoying. So what I want to do is I want to show you the team that I'm running, like show you how I do it, kind of point out some specifics about Amius that you're going to want to look out for because he is not an easy boss to beat. And then I'll show you the gear and the champions I was using at the end of this. The builds I use, I don't think are crazy OP. So this is definitely attainable. The hard part is because you're only limited to 5 different factions, right? You've got Dark Elves, Skinwalkers, Lizardmen, Barbarians, and Sylvan Watchers. So it's a little bit limited in the opportunity, the choices of champions that you can use. My feeling about this is you're really going to need Pythion. I think without Pythion, it makes it really tough. I think there's an argument to be said you could do this with Elva instead. They offer similar abilities, right? Including a cleanse ability as well as a block debuff ability. That's probably pretty good. The big difference is Pythion has an AoE revive where Elva has a single target revive. And champions dying in this is the thing that will happen. I'm pretty much limited to 1, but occasionally 2 do go down. And that's where I don't know that Elva would be as effective. In addition to that, the increased speed ability that Elva has might lend to some problems. So that's definitely something you're going to want to kind of, factor in if you try to go that route. It's just going to make it a little bit harder to build. But this is the team that I'm using. So anyway, we've got Coldheart in here. We've got Woad painted. Love Woad for this. And we've got Venomage. As well as, of course, Grishnak. And Grishnak is OP for this boss. Absolutely OP. So let's go in. We'll kind of show you the run, how it goes. Now, it's not a fast run. This is about 10 minutes or so. But I want to walk you guys through it so you can kind of see how we go about doing this. First thing I'm going to do, right? My big thing is to put bombs up. And the only thing I'm being careful of, not putting too many up. That's going to be the hard part. So I actually started A3 and now I'm doing A1. And honestly, too many bombs. Already too many bombs. I should have just gone A1 right away. Now, the boss on this first hit, this is the big one. This A2 ability is a massive heal. So before, obviously in the first attack, it doesn't matter. But after that, we want to make sure we have heal reduction, 100% up for this skill. And this skill, really pretty much only that skill. It's the only one that really matters with that. But it is crucial. Otherwise, it's going to heal all the time. The other skill is the next one's coming up here. That's A3. Which basically it's going to replace any debuffs we put on him with the opposite, right? Decreased attack becomes increased attack. Decreased defense becomes increased defense, etc. And then he's going to stun all of us. So the big thing with this, I've found, is try not to put up too many buffs. Try not to put up too many debuffs, right? Stick to poisons, HP burns, and heal reduction. That's the only debuffs I'm really trying to get up. And, at certain points, I'm trying to get up decreased attack as well. Those are really the keys for me on this build. As far as protecting us, we do want, this is why we love Pythion right here, is we get the block debuff. so we don't get stunned. That's also going to be very important. Now, because he's going to convert any heal reduction to a continuous heal, I'm not going to bother with that right now. We're going to just max HP with Cold Heart there. We're going to A1 here with Venom Mage. Just trying not to put up any debuffs at the moment. Wood Painted, we could use an ability but to heal, but I don't want to just yet. We're just going to kind of attack. And here, we're not going to put up the decreased attack yet. Just A1 right now. More bombs we don't need, and you can see all those poisons going out. That is actually going to be a problem for us, but I think we'll be able to hopefully reduce those in time. We're not able to get any other debuffs up there, and this is a problem with Grishnak. You got to be careful of overfilling that debuff bar. This is actually going to be a really important thing to kind of keep an eye on. So hopefully we can reduce some of these right here. This is the point where we can go ahead and heal with Wood Painted. I'm not worried about the reflect damage. That doesn't get taken, that like nothing comes out of that. So I don't have to worry about that so much. All right, we finally have a little bit of room. Now this is important. This passive, this is the one we're going to have to pay attention to. You want to track this. This is really important. Is this 3 turns? Is it 2 turns? Is it 1 turn? When it gets down to 1 turn, you know he's about to switch forms, and we need to adjust for that, right? Very next attack. Now that it's on the 1, very next attack is going to switch forms. And so that's where we've got to pay attention to him. And basically what we want is to make sure we have decreased attack out for that attack. That's going to do a couple things for us, but it's really important that we get that to be sure. So we're just going to A1 there. That's fine. Now we want Grishak. There we go. Get that decreased attack going. Boom. All right. Now we got decreased attack up. That's going to allow us to survive this hit. Interesting thing, when you have decreased attack up, this is the way every time, but you know, it can get a little bit wonky. But from what I can tell, that forces the boss to use their A1 ability. And this is a killer skill, right? It ignores 100% of the defense. Obviously, with more ascensions, it'll ignore less of it, and that's helping our Cold Heart right now. But it's just an A1 skill, a single target ability. Really nice to have that. But anyway, we're just going to go in here, heal up. Cold Heart here, we're just going to A1. Don't really need to do anything. We want to go ahead, make sure that we have decreased attack up. So we're going to follow it up with Venom Mages right here. You can see this up here is the Eclipse tab, and it's on a 3-turn cooldown right now. It's got 3 turns left on it. Kind of hard to see, honestly. I know the screen's a little bit small, but it is 3 turns. I wonder if we can... Nope, that's not what I wanted to look at. Info tab right here. You can see the Eclipse right there. It's on 3 turns. That's really important, right? We need to track that as well. When that gets to 1, he's going to transform. So we need to know when those are going to be happening, right? So put that back up, get that decreased attack up to 2 turn. And then at this point, we can just kind of, use skills as they come. Getting more bombs. So there goes Cold Heart. Immediately, when somebody dies, immediately goes into his A3 skill. This is where it can get a little dicey. But he's going to transform because enough time passes. He's going to transform. That is something we can kind of, track as we go along. Here, I'm just going to make sure we block the stun, which is the next skill coming up. Right? This is where it gets tricky. Like, these skills are happening over and over and over again because when he kills somebody, he immediately activates his A3 ability, right? And it puts everybody to sleep. And then he comes back in again. And so it can get really, really tricky, really, really fast. And you can see right here, we still got 2 turns on that passive when he's going to switch forms. So I'm waiting for that right now. That's kind of the big thing I'm waiting for right now. But we had heal reduction up, so he didn't heal all the way. That's fine. We can get more bombs out there. We can turn those into poisons, get that decreased attack, right? Might be a little bit early for them, but that's okay. We're going to heal with Woad. Woad is an insane healer for this. Biggest thing is Woad doesn't place any debuffs that are going to get stolen or jacked or whatever. So that's actually really, really helpful for us. Heal reduction with Cold Heart. Cold Heart's heal reduction is almost as valuable as her damage ability. Quite frankly, it's insanely good. Okay, just keep those poisons going. Probably could have, elongated that decreased attack. Got a couple more bombs. Those will turn into things later on. What we want, we're just going to max HP hit. Boom. That's nice. There he goes. goes into that A3, into the A2. You can see, like, cycles through these skills really quickly. But the important part is we're tanky enough to take it. The decreased attack helped us survive it. And that Eclipse is now down to a 2-turn cooldown. This is key for us long term. This is where we can get really smooth because Venom Mage here has a heal reduction that's a 3-turn duration. The Eclipse is in 2 turns. So, and when he transforms, it's actually going to reduce the duration of it. It's going to be perfect. It means it's going to be up for his big heal ability when he transforms. He's going to do 1 attack in this form, transform, do a 2nd attack in that one. And that second one is going to reduce the duration of all the debuffs, which means that heal reduction will fall off before he can transform it into a buff in his next attack. And it sounds a little complicated, I know, but just trust me, it actually is going to work here. So we get that out. And yes, we're going to die. This part here, Cold Heart is going to bite it. That's okay. I'm not worried about that. There's a transform, right? Here's the skill. You see the heal reduction, and you see how it fell off because that ability right here decreases the duration of debuffs. And so that heal reduction debuff gets decreased. Fine. Cold Heart's dead. Not important. We come back. We put up the block debuff so that we don't get stunned. We can come in here. I don't want too many debuffs out there. So we're just going to A1 here with Grishnak. Let's see, 3 bombs as it is. We're going to wait to heal with Woad. Everybody's tanky enough to take this next hit. Not a strong hit. But most importantly, this debuff bar keeps going down. Now we can revive Cold Heart. Just A1 right there. Grishnak can go ahead and get the decreased attack out there, as well as the poisons. Heal up with Woad. And takes that extra turn. Cold Heart in here. Going to get the heal reduction for us. Thank you. And now we are in good shape, and we're doing poison damage over time. And here we can go ahead and extend the duration of that decreased attack and decreased defense. That's always good. We can use the A3. Why not? A fun skill. Take an extra turn. Come on, Woad. Excellent, excellent. There goes Cold Heart. Then the heal reduction. There it goes. And we're back again, right? Use that A3. Woke up a little bit early, a little earlier than I was expecting. That's okay. What's A1 right there? There goes that A2 ability from Amius. Now, remember, 2-turn duration on that Eclipse. Again, 2-turn duration on it. Come back through. The heal reduction here for 3 turns. Going to be perfect timing for us. We can go ahead, just A1, throw some more bombs and debuffs. We don't want to put decreased attack. We don't want any buffs out there that might cause Amius to use the A3 instead. That's kind of a real hidden thing. He tends to do that sometimes. They'll use the other skill. And so I found that not putting decreased attack, not putting decreased defense helps ensure that the right debuff gets placed. There we go. Block all the debuffs right there again. Just A1. Make sure that we add debuffs that don't matter here, that won't get cleansed. And this is it. This is the system here. But you can see it takes about 10 minutes real time. But I should have revived. No. Hopefully that doesn't hurt me too much. It's fine. It's fine. It's got to be fine, right? I'm sure it's fine. Not a problem. Not a problem at all. Oh my God. Did I break it? Did I break the game, guys? I don't know. The good thing is we still have another turn here to revive Cold Heart. And we're really only using Cold Heart's A1, so it's not a huge deal. We should be fine long term. You should still have a chance to go ahead and we're just gonna A1. Hopefully we don't have any room. Okay, great. So that's a problem. We didn't leave ourselves room to actually land any debuffs. That's okay. There's no healing going on here. I'm not too concerned about it. There you go. Turns into poisons. Yada yada yada. Everybody's asleep. A2. Boom. Just like we predict, it goes through his skills. He's just got his A1. Now the one thing, we don't want to kill him this turn. We want to kill him the next turn, right? When he's in his base form. That's going to be really, really important. So we're going to get the heal reduction here for 3 turns. And hopefully, yeah, didn't die. Transforms. Oh, looks like he revived. Oh, he died. He was in the wrong form when he died. He's in the wrong form. So now he revives. Looks like a little bit of a glitch where he disappeared, and now he's back. So now we just have to go through it one more time, but that's okay. You guys can see the system here. If you can time it right, he won't revive because he'll be in his base form, which would be, ideal. But, sometimes we mess it up. It's okay. Don't judge me too harshly. But yeah, that's the idea behind this. Pretty simple kind of theme and process. Honestly, for me, it was hard to figure out. It took more than a little bit of time to really piece it all together exactly how I wanted it to go. Cold Heart's still down. I don't like that. I'm going to be honest with you guys. One of the reasons why, also, if I didn't use this, I think the alternate form would use their A1 skill, but because of the strengthen buff, it's going to try and strip those, which uses the A3 and then the A2 here. So that's kind of an important thing, right? There is less healing in this form as well. That's also something we want to kind of keep in mind. So we are more susceptible to dying, and it's hard to heal up at this point. But it's also, I think, going to be okay. So again, that heal reduction for 3 turns, that is the most crucial thing about this. We can make that happen consistently. We'll be in really good shape. Boom. There goes Cold Heart. There goes transformation. And then switches forms. Deals damage. That's okay. We did lose Woad. That's fine. We have a revive coming up here. And that's kind of the important thing. You block the debuffs. Boom. Now we don't have a revive. It's off. It's still on cooldown. Oh no. Oh no. That. Detonate that. A1. Boom. Okay, now we can get the revive. Now we can do that. More bombs. Hopefully. I think we're out of room again. But we do have time to heal up before we come into the alternate form. That's the key. We're full up again. But boy, I thought there was going to be a little, 10 minutes turned into 15. It's all right. You can kind of see it's a fairly resilient comp. There's a consistency to it with this build. Again, making sure that your debuffs are consistent is really helpful. That's where I found when I run into trouble, that seems to be the reason why. So getting this heal reduction right here, the 2 turns left on the Eclipse is massive. That's kind of the game, right? That's everything right there. So if you can manage that, you'll be in pretty good shape, I'd think. There we go. Now he's in his alternate form. Perfect timing. Well, maybe not perfect. Again, Woad went down a little earlier than I was hoping for. But I think we're close enough now where we can actually try and just kill this guy. That's going to be our goal here. We're going to see if we can't just kill him. Pretty close. Hopefully those poisons will do the job. That's the goal. Oh boy, so close. I don't think we're going to get it this form, or we are going to get it this form, and that's going to be its own little problem. So we'll see if we can't make this happen here. Yeah, let's get decreased defense, decreased attack, heal reduction. Okay, looks like we're in good shape here. Boom, and there it is. And there it is. We did it. We did it. Success. All right, quick costume change, guys. There's 2 things I want to do before we head out of here, right? You obviously want to see the gear on how I built the champions, what's going on with them, why I chose them. That's a really important thing of why I chose the champions I did. Part of that is talking about the skills of the Archon himself, right? And I think that is going to be important. I don't want to spend a lot of time because you can obviously read the details of the skill. What I want to talk about is the impact on the team that you bring and why I chose the champions I did. So let's do that real quick, and then I'll go into the gear for all the champions, right? This A1, so first we got 2 forms. And I think this is important to understand how this boss works. You have to understand how these forms interact, right? You've got 2 forms. The way I like to describe it is you've got a healing form and you've got a damage form. Or you could say you have a self-buffing form and a debuffing form, right? I think both of those are good ways to look at it. I mean, the way we're going to talk about it is the base form versus the alternate form, and that's fine. But we need to understand that, what do those 2 forms do? And basically what it is, TLDR, the base form is going to turn any debuffs into buffs on Amius. So all of his skills are actually affecting himself, right? He heals himself. He turns his debuffs into buffs. That's the kind of stuff that he does. The only offensive skill that he has really available is an AoE stun. So that is something we do have to take into account for, but everything else is really just affecting Amius himself. On his alternate form, though, when we switch forms, everything is then affecting you, right? He's going to turn all your buffs into debuffs. He's going to hit you extremely hard and ignore your defense. He's going to sleep your team, right? And so everything is then in that one is going to affect you. The only difference is some of those skills are actually going to affect Amius's turn meter, and that's something that we want to be kind of careful of. So how does that impact what we're bringing to the table? Well, if we look at the base form, he turns all buffs. He increases the duration of all buffs, decreases the duration of all debuffs, and all of that turns into a heal. And it also turns into turn meter boost for Amius for every debuff that has its duration decreased. So one of the things that we want to make sure is that we are speed tuned tight enough where that turn meter duration isn't going to affect us, that we don't have so many debuffs that's going to affect our turn order so much. We want to make sure that we don't put, too many buffs and debuffs, right? Especially the debuffs. The buffs is fine because it's not really affecting anything. The biggest thing is that's a heal ability. This Lunar Storm is a heal ability. We need to make sure he doesn't heal. 20% of his max HP is massive. The fact that it increases for every buff that has its duration increase is massive. So we want to really limit that by making sure we have heal reduction on and that we don't have too many debuffs or buffs, right? Rampant Chaos, this A3 ability. This one is the one that swaps all the debuffs into buffs, right? Block buffs turns into block debuffs. What's called heal reduction turns into continuous heal. Decrease attack, decrease defense, decrease crit rate, decrease crit damage. Those all turn into the opposite, essentially. And then it does an AoE stun. So how do we combat this? We make sure that we don't have any debuffs on this boss for this skill. Period. The only debuffs that are good are damage over time abilities, HP burn, bombs, poisons. Those are all great. So what we want to do is try to make sure those are the debuffs we have out there and nothing else. If we can do that, then we don't have to worry about this ability at all. Occasionally we will have heal reduction and that'll turn into continuous heal. But if we can reapply heal reduction right away, then it stops being a problem, right? That's the only one that I have found is pretty much acceptable. Increased attack is going to kind of kill our team. We got to be really careful about that. Increased defense, less of an issue, right? But again, we just want to try to avoid it because every debuff converted gives Amius another 10% turn meter fill. And the truth of the matter is we want to be really careful about that. Even with our team all going about the same speed and we're kind of turn meter locking Amius in here, too many turn meter buffs is going to interrupt our team and throw off our turn order. That's not something that we want to have happen. So that's all of the all of his positive side, his healing side, his base form does all of that. And those are the simple ways we're going to do it. We're going to limit the debuffs that we place on him. Very simple. We're going to make sure we have heal reduction on. And then, obviously with this A3 ability, that it does land a stun on everybody. So having either a way to cleanse it or having a block debuff ability is going to be the way to go. And so that's what we're going to use. So obviously, champions like Elva, Pythion, who I'm using, Tuhanarok, these are all great options for this. Even somebody like Scatharix, I think, could work. So there are options as far as ways to go about doing that. His alternate form is a little bit different, right? The A1 slaps you and just ignores defense. Just ignores defense. It's the worst, and it can basically one-shot your champions. Now, the thing about this skill is it targets the champion with the lowest HP. I'm pretty positive about that, right? Everything I've seen, it's always the lowest HP champion, which means you can manipulate this a little bit, right? Whoever has your highest blessing, you want that person in that lowest HP slot, pretty much. The reason why, every bit of blessing, every level of awakening will help will reduce the ignore defense effect. So it's 100% ignore defense, right? But it's going to drop 5% for the first 2 levels of blessing. So that would be a total of 10, and then 10% for every level after that. So on my Cold Heart, for example, I've a 4-star blessing. I mean, Cold Heart's ignoring 5% for level 1, 5% for level 2, 10% for level 3, and another 10% for level 4. So 30% of that ignore defense. So the boss is ignoring 70% of her defense, right? That's going to help keep her alive. In addition to that, damage increases by 20% for each debuff on the enemy. So making sure you don't have any debuffs up goes a long way to surviving. Now, in my case, I also have Pythion, who does damage reduction when you have buffs up. We do have one buff from Woad Painted, which is helping Coldheart survive that hit as well. So all those things kind of play together. And that's kind of the thing. If you can survive that first hit, it's really good, because if that attack kills an enemy, it instantly activates the Maniacal Bedlam skill. And then all of a sudden the boss is going to cycle through turns and just go and go and go and can wipe your team. So that's kind of what we want to avoid. It's okay to drop one person once, but we don't want to drop twice. And that's going to be the kind of the key to surviving this, I think. Now, the thing is that A1 in the alternate form, in the damage form, that tends to activate whenever there's a decreased attack debuff on the enemy, or decreased defense, I think, but definitely decreased attack. So if we can keep decreased attack up when he transforms, well, that is a skill that's going to activate. If we don't have that up, however, it seems to me, and it's not 100% consistent, so this is kind of annoying, but it seems to me that then it activates into the Blood Moon Vortex and Maniacal Bedlam ability, which is frustrating. Basically, Maniacal Bedlam is the opposite of the base form, where it turns all of your buffs into debuffs, right? And that's obviously going to be really important. So if you have block debuffs up, now it's going to become block buffs, etc. So we want to make sure we limit the amount of buffs that we have on ourselves. We actually don't want any buffs that can get transformed, because every time that happens, it's going to make it that we're going to get hit that much harder. And the turn meter of Amius gets bumped up every time that happens. It also places a sleep on everybody. Now, if you have mythical champions, it forces them to change form. They don't sleep. I don't have any mythical champions. I'm not worried about it. But that might be a great way to kind of counteract some of this ability here. But key here is, having this thing. Basically, what's going to happen is that's going to hit, sleep everybody, and then he's going to take another turn, right? And so 2 turns are going to go by before you do anything else, right? Then he's going to go to this Blood Moon Vortex, which is an AoE attack. And it's going to increase the duration of your debuffs, right? Decrease the duration of your buffs. But this is going to happen afterwards, and then it's going to, just do more damage. Now, this one I haven't found a major issue with, right? It hits hard, but not hard enough to actually kill any of my champions on my team. It's, I guess, based on enemy max HP and attack. It just hasn't been an issue for me. One of the things it does do, decreases your turn meter for every debuff that has its duration decrease. Again, we want to avoid having debuffs on our champions. So you can go 2 ways with this. Those are kind of the basic skills, right? One form is going to turn your buffs into debuffs, and one form is going to turn his debuffs into buffs. So when I went through this, one of the things I wanted to do was I wanted to either let the A3 and the A2 go, because that's 2 turns down. Immediately after that, once you're able to take a turn, that Eclipse Moon is down to a 2-turn duration, which means I can do the heal reduction from Venom Age. Even though he's going to end up one-shotting one of our champions, it's just going to be 1 before he transforms into his alternate form. That's fine. We can survive that then. I think that can work. So that's one approach. The other approach is putting decreased attack out there, making sure that the hits aren't too severe. We take 1 on the first hit, and like for us, it was Coldheart, but we're able to survive it. And by being able to survive it, we're then able to go through the other forms, let everything kind of happen in turn, and we're able to put our debuffs up before the eclipse full moon in time, in our own sweet time, basically. But the key here is being able to manipulate the skills and when they happen. Now, I don't know 100%, does decreased attack make, one skill happen and not another skill happen 100% of the time? In my testing, no, which is very frustrating and annoying. But I need to test it further. I need to really put it through its paces and see, is that a consistent thing? Are there mitigating factors with it? What are the things that can affect that? And obviously there's a lot of variables here. So I don't know, if or when I'm going to be able to figure all that out, but it is something I've noticed. And so that's something I want to explore further. But this all comes back to, why am I choosing the champions I'm choosing? And I think this is the big key here, right? I'm choosing Pythion very simply because I need an AoE reviver. If we go down, that's a problem. Python is a really good AoE revive champion. On top of that, also has a cleanse ability and a block debuff skill, right? That's going to be really important because that's going to allow us to survive the stun. And that's really big. There's some healing involved, which is important too. There's not a lot of healing from the champions available, period. So Python kind of fills a very big role for us in that sense. And then we have Gishnak, Nishak, Vermin Lord, right? The big thing with Nishak is, again, what are the debuffs we want to put out there? Poison, bombs, HP burn, things that don't get, that aren't going to get transferred or transformed. And that's what Nishak does. But one thing I did want was decrease attack, and he brings that. So he's kind of a perfect champion for this. Just the sheer amount of debuffs that he brings and poisons, and the decreased attack that I can use when I need to use it. Both of those things are really, really effective. I do have to be careful with Nishak about overfilling the debuff bar, but other than that, he's an ideal champion to bring in here. He just makes the run go a lot faster. Woad Painted, superstar on this team, primarily because of the massive heal ability. This is something that you don't see super often, right? Being able to heal your whole team to full. When she heals, all the overflow healing heals everybody else by 50%. So, building her a bit tanky, or a lot tanky, really high HP, can do wonders for your team and really heal us up full every turn. That is massive for us. And that's really why I brought her in there. I wasn't getting enough healing in my team. I brought in Woad Painted, and that all of a sudden ceased to be an issue. Venom Mage obviously is a superstar as well. One of the big things is heal reduction debuff for 3 turns. I did make sure not to put any Master Hexer, so that's not being extended. And obviously this is really important for us. The poisons are nice, don't get me wrong. But the big thing is that heal reduction for 3 turns, having a secondary decreased attack if poisons are out there. That heal reduction allowed us that when the boss is on a 2-turn duration of the Eclipse or a 3-turn duration, it doesn't really matter. We're able to get the heal reduction out there and prevent all the massive healing from that A2 on the base form. That is absolutely crucial. And that was one of the reasons why I brought Venom Mage in, and I thought it was really good. On top of that, Venom Mage has a massive damage reduction, right? That's actually huge for us, surviving especially those A1 hits. And this makes Venom Mage, I think, really OP for this, right? That damage reduction is one of the reasons why Coldheart is able to survive. And speaking of Coldheart, here she is. Coldheart, the big thing here is the heal reduction on the A1. That's really the only skill that matters. It's the only one. The only one that matters, right? They all each hit 4-hitter. Each one has a 35% chance of landing heal reduction. If I put enough accuracy on her, she's pretty much going to land it. Now, I love the max HP hit. It's great. But all I really care about is this heal reduction. That's the biggest part of her kit, because we need to make sure that the boss can heal. And sometimes, and because we're saving Venom Mage for a very specific time for the transformation, we want to make sure that we can, get heal reduction out the rest of the time, because that's going to activate Venom Mage's passive ability, and it's also going to make sure that the boss just doesn't heal if there's an emergency situation, if things kind of go wrong. Now, one of the cool things is sometimes these champions can get knocked down occasionally, but Python can heal. We don't have to follow the turn order exactly, right? If we have somebody goes down a little early, if somebody else gets targeted, it's not the worst thing in the world. We can very well adjust with this team, which is one of the things I like. Now, one of the things you're going to notice, everybody's speed is basically going to be in the same window, except for Nishak. I just had him a little bit fast, which is just a thing. But basically, you want everybody kind of in that 245 to 249 range, right? You want them just slower than the boss. That tight speed range is going to ensure that everybody's kind of going at the same time. And also that those turn meter boosts on the boss doesn't mess up your turn order, right? That's kind of the big thing. So anyway, Python here, you can see total stats, right? Just under 250 speed, right? Really tanky. Otherwise, I have them built in my arena gear. I really haven't changed them except made them a little bit faster for this build. You see all the resistance. We don't need it. Doesn't seem to help. Maybe it does. I don't know. I haven't noticed any resists on the enemy debuffs, so that's something that you guys can kind of try out once you get here. Masteries, you can see we're going support tree and defensive tree. There's going to be some things you're going to notice we don't have on any of our champions. No turn meter stuff. None of this. None of the skill cooldown stuff. None of this turn meter stuff here, right? No, not that one. None of the turn meter stuff. we want to have a very consistent kind of run with our team. So that's going to be important, I think, when you're building these champions out. As far as Nishak here, you can see this, he is built rather fast, 272, right? A little faster than I want. You can see decent defense and HP. We want him to survive. But the big thing is having that accuracy up. That's the biggest thing, right? And he, one thing you'll notice is the lowest HP champion is Coldheart. Everybody else is going to have more than that. Actually, we can look at Coldheart now so you can kind of see what I'm talking about. 47,000 HP. This lets him be targeted for that A1 from the boss. Again, 435 accuracy is pretty solid. 246 speed, again, within that window. And you can see the masteries, we're going offense and support tree. We could very easily come down to Eagle Eye. We don't really need War Master. We don't really need anything. Very easy to hit the max HP number. We don't need a lot of crit damage or anything like that. It's basically the heal reduction and accuracy that we're building her for, which is a little bit odd, I agree. We've got Woad painted here, right? We got Woad, very tanky, a lot of HP. This is going to help with the heal and the overheal from her skill. Again, in that kind of window, 243. Could probably bump her up a little bit, to be fair. And that's really all that I cared about. Now, Woad actually hits decently hard. Building some crit rate, building some crit damage, not the worst thing in the world. I would just focus on the HP. That's really what you want. But yeah, we've got both a Defiant set, which you'll see on a few champions, and Guardian set. Now, the Guardian's really good for this spot to help people like Coldheart survive. And the Defiant is really big for everybody. It helps us reduce the damage that we're taking from those big AoE hits. Stalwart sets, Defiant gear, definitely recommended as we go through this. Mastery-wise, again, offensive tree down here, support tree. I think the support tree, you want as much healing as you can possibly get. We could go down the defensive tree just as easily as the offensive tree. I don't think it's really going to have a huge difference on us overall. Then we have Venom Mage, again, support tree and defensive tree, all the way down here to Eagle Eye. That's really what we're aiming for. Stats, it's speed and accuracy, right? So you can see, again, 59k HP, so more than Coldheart. Pretty good defense in HP. Nishak or Venom Mage will be targeted if Coldheart dies, and so it is good to have them a little bit tankier to be able to survive, hopefully. 244 speed and 506 accuracy to land all the debuffs. So that's the team. Overall, this is a very challenging build. This boss is really hard. The two different forms, basically a mythical boss, makes it real tricky to kind of figure out how it works, right? And then when the skills don't always happen at the same time every time, that's frustrating as well. It's very hard to kind of figure out what the keys are for it switching its skills and using, certain abilities at certain times. I think I found a little bit of it with the decreased attack, but it's not, even that hasn't been completely consistent, but it's consistent enough for me to be successful in this run. Now, can you use alternate champions? Absolutely. There's a couple that are kind of, there's limits to what we have. I think there's going to be multiple ways to do this. You can definitely brute force this as well with a bunch of legendary champions, but I want to try to make this as accessible as possible. I think to do that, Pythion is probably going to be essential to this. I think there's a possibility that you could use Elva in this role. I don't think you need and necessarily have to use Coldheart. You just want somebody with a consistent heal reduction, probably on an A1 skill. But if you can get the rotation right, you can use other champions in that role. We just want to make sure that we get the heal reduction at the right time. What I like about Coldheart's A1 is that if the right time is not the right time, we can still always try to reapply that, right? And that, I think, to me is really helpful. If, for example, somebody dies, we don't get the revive at the right time, I can still, be able to apply that debuff when I need to. Woad Painted, I think, is fairly clutch. The big heal that she gives can really kind of restore everybody. Finding some way to heal on this team is really impressive. I did try to use some other champions, but it gets a little tricky. It's a little bit harder to do it. But there are definitely alternative possibilities as far as trying to, build this team. I'll try and showcase as many of those as I can as we go through here. But this is going to be kind of the foundation for how this works, right? So I will try to substitute out at least one, all these different champions. I did already find a substitute for Nishak. I'll be showing that in the future. I'll try to find one for Pythion, though that might be the hardest one to do. But yeah, we'll be able to showcase more than a few different ways for this team to work for you, and more than a few different ways for you to build this and take on Amius. It's a tough boss. Not everybody's going to be able to do it. Not everybody's going to be able to do it their first time through. That's okay. This is definitely the highest level content that we have because of the restrictions on the champions that are involved. You haven't beaten Hard Doom Tower, don't expect to beat all of the City of Centranos. It's just a reasonable expectation. Still fun content, still something new for us to do, and I think in that sense is good. But this to me seems the most free-to-play accessible. Anyway, let me guys know, what do you think about this team? Do you have any ideas for substitutions for some of these champions? Let me know down below. That's all we got. That's all we got. Make sure you hit that like button so other people can see this video. If you thought this was helpful, I want others to be able to see it. Hit the subscribe if you haven't already so you can see the future content that I put out on this boss. And until next we meet on the Deadwood Jedi.